95% of all shots made in pool are cut shots, where the cue ball strikes the object ball off-center to deflect it at an angle. Mastering the cut shot is vital to any progress in playing the game. The CutShots aiming balls have been designed to assist the player in visualizing the exact angle necessary to sink any shot. Both the yellow object balls and the white cue ball have 112 spots in 4 different shapes and 4 different colors that can be clearly seen the entire length of the table. So how does the CutShots aiming trainer work? It's easy to remember. See the spots, sink the shots. And that is exactly what our patented system does for every shot you take, using 3 easy steps. Step 1. In step 1, you stand behind the yellow object ball facing the direction it must travel to go into the pocket, and you find the one and only spot on the ball you must hit if you are making a straight-in shot. Most players use their cue for this and look along their cue shaft for assistance. This one and only spot on the ball might be a red circle or a purple star. It could also be a piece of yellow background located between a green square and a black triangle. The important thing is this: find that spot, about the size of a pinhead, and memorize its location on the object ball. This exact spot on the yellow object ball is called Spot 1. This is a good time to mention that Spot 1 and Spot 2 should always be located on the equator of the object and cue balls, vertically halfway up the ball from the table surface. Step 2. In Step 2, you move your body behind the white cue ball while looking at the yellow object ball. Your perspective has changed, but you can still see Spot 1, which you have memorized on the object ball. What if you lose Spot 1 on the object ball? Then go back and repeat Step 1 and find it again. When you have moved behind the white cue ball and are lined up with the yellow object ball, and you can still see Spot 1 on the object ball, you now find the one and only spot on the cue ball that can hit Spot 1 on the object ball. It is also the size of a pinhead and is called Spot 2. You're probably asking yourself, how do I find this one and only Spot 2 on the cue ball? Most players again use their cue to help them find Spot 2. When you move from Step 1, standing behind the object ball, to Step 2, standing behind the cue ball, you move to the left. This change in perspective caused Spot 1 on the object ball to visually shift to the right. Now you cannot possibly strike Spot 1 with the center of the cue ball. You can only strike Spot 1 with a corresponding spot on the left side of the cue ball, that is, on the opposite side of the cue ball from Spot 1. While looking at Spot 1, measure how far inward from the right edge of the yellow ball Spot 1 appears to be. Let's call that distance 1 unit. Spot 2 on your side of the cue ball is also going to be equal to 1 unit in, but from the opposite edge of the cue ball. In this example, it is 1 unit in from the left edge. And so, Spot 2 on the cue ball is the exact point that must strike Spot 1 on the object ball to sink the shot. There is a principle at work here that we call equal and opposite, and it is how you find Spot 2 on the cue ball. Spot 2 on the cue ball is equal distance from the opposite side, as Spot 1 is from the edge of the object ball. Again, this pinhead-sized spot might be one of the colored shapes, or it might be a piece of white on the cue ball, close to 2 or 3 colored shapes. Congratulations! You've completed Step 1, finding Spot 1, and Step 2, finding Spot 2. Once again, Spot 1 and Spot 2 should always be located on the equator of the object and cue balls, vertically halfway up the ball from the table surface. Step 3. In Step 3, you slightly shift your cue's position and take the shot. Draw an imaginary line pointing with your cue through Spot 2 and Spot 1. If you were to hit the cue ball on Spot 2, lined up with Spot 1, you would miscue the ball, and who knows where it would go. To avoid this, you must make a parallel shift with your whole cue so that it strikes the center of the cue ball without changing the direction of the shot away from Spot 1. It is important that you make a parallel shift of your bridge hand and the full length of the cue so you strike the center of the cue ball. Do not move your whole body, just slide the bridge hand to the side, keeping your cue parallel. Now take the shot along this second imaginary line, which is parallel to the line through Spot 2 and Spot 1, using a good medium stroke. Be sure to keep your eyes focused on the Spot 2, Spot 1 line, and not on the cue or its second imaginary line. Spot 2 will strike Spot 1 and you will sink the shot. See the spots, sink the shots. It's that easy. Will you make every shot every time? No. It's going to take some practice to get the hang of it. This technique works equally well whether you are cutting a ball to the left like you saw in our example, or if you are cutting a ball to the right as shown here. We call this three-step technique of finding the spots and sinking the shot. Spot, spot, shift. Find 2 spots and then shift to make your shot. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Begin your practice by placing 3 CutShots object balls on the table and practicing until you start sinking shots. Of course, try short shots and easier angles at first to gain confidence. Then gradually make them longer and then sharper. To make your practice times even more productive, add an additional 4 object balls so you have 7 object balls on the table. You can even replace all the solids or all the striped balls from a regular set with your yellow training balls to simulate what you encounter in a game of 8-ball. And you can play a full game of 8-ball against an opponent with the full set of 8 CutShots balls. So you play 8-ball exactly the way you practice. Spot, spot, shift, then shoot. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Soon you will develop a standard routine for approaching and taking every shot. When you transition over to standard balls, the technique will be so ingrained that you will play the way you practiced. Replace the CutShots cue ball first and only later the CutShots object balls. Thanks for taking the time to view the CutShots video and enjoy your progress. CutShots are best used by beginners to get good shooting right from the first time. But CutShots are also excellent for experienced players whose game has gone into a slump. Just put your normal routine aside for a few practice sessions with CutShots. Your game focus and your visual abilities should sharpen up. Then you can get back to winning your way.